By getting rid of Karima Baloch or getting rid of Sajid Hussain, who benefits? They were both critical of Pakistan's human rights records in Balochistan. They both talked about enforced disappearances, human rights violations, and so on and so forth. So the only people who benefit are the Pakistan state and the ISI. So the motive is very clear that they wanted to suppress their voices. And basically pushing all the Baloch out, and the Baloch to enter that area for shops or marketing or whatever, they will get a pass. Now, can you imagine in your own country, foreigners are living in a place and you to enter have to get a pass. So this is a similar kind of pass which was used by South Africa to control the native South Africans. So this is a form of apartheid, and the Baloch are extremely upset about it. But so many journalists have been beaten up, Matiullah Jan, Najam Sethi, Taha Siddiqui, you name them one after the other, they've all been browbeaten and pressurized to stop doing. Because Imran Khan is incompetent, he can't tackle the problem. So he thinks the best way is to stop reporting about the problem, so the problem will go away on its own. If nobody is writing about it, the problem will not be there. MBS was very upset at that time, and when he and Imran Khan had come to New York in his Crown Prince's aircraft, on the way back, the aircraft had flown 2 hours. MBS called it back, saying technical fault, and Imran Khan had to take a commercial flight to get back to Pakistan. That was a very important signal which Imran Khan refused to accept. UAE has already stopped visas, and you don't know what Saudi Arabia will do. Today, 50,000 Pakistani workers have been sent back. 50,000 have been laid off in UAE, and 100,000 people who had got visas in Pakistan can't go to the UAE. For the first time, the Chinese have asked for bank guarantees for the 6 billion loan for the Mainline 1 project. This has never happened before. Pakistan doesn't have any money. So the army is losing credibility now. Because they are so closely associated with Imran Khan, Imran Khan keeps saying we are on the same page. The people say if you're on the same page, then if Imran Khan is bad, you are worse. After all, this is what Nawaz Sharif has focused on. That don't blame Imran Khan so much as the selectors. After all, the selectors brought him. Unki kya responsibility hai? They are the ones responsible. I am Tilak Deveshan and you're watching Defensive Offence. This is an excellent news analysis channel talking about international relations and security issues, and I do recommend that you watch it. Thank you very much. First is the denial. That's not done by Pakistan. So the simple, any crime, the first question you ask is who benefits? By getting rid of Karima Baloch or getting rid of Sajid Hussain, who benefits? They were both critical of Pakistan's human rights records in Balochistan. They both talked about enforced disappearances, human rights violations, and so on and so forth. So the only people who benefit are the Pakistan state and the ISI. So the motive is very clear that they wanted to suppress their voices. The second question is, how does Pakistan get away with it? I think the reason is that Pakistan has managed to, especially in Canada, influence, or I would not say infiltrate, but certainly a lot of people of Pakistani origin in the diaspora have become important constituents in the constituencies of various members of parliament. And therefore, they exercise enough pressure that no further inquiries or no of the inquiries should be suppressed. Likewise, in the case of Sweden is such a safe and a secure sort of a society. They will not even imagine that somebody would want to get rid of, for this political reason. They may not even be aware of what is happening in Balochistan. So it's a case of suicide. But the fact of the matter is that the diaspora knows, people in Pakistan know, and other people who watch Balochistan know, that the only people who benefit from this is the Pak ISI. And therefore they've been able to do it and get away with it, which is the worst thing. And there is a very famous Chinese saying that kill the chicken to frighten the monkey. So both these activists are not the topmost dissidents, Pakistani dissidents abroad. They are middle level. So they are Pakistanis also aware that there will be not too much of an uproar or hue and cry. It will be there for a little while. So they are sending a signal to the other major dissidents that you had better watch out. That we are there, we have the capability, we have the intention that we can also do this to you. Pervez Musharraf's famous interview when he said that Pakistan should be much more active. This is what is coming out actually. All this while they were doing it with impunity in Balochistan. Now they decided to step out of Pakistan territory and go and do it abroad. So this is what is exactly happening. You see, I think if we just go back a little bit, two things are involved here. One, the Middle East itself, the dynamics in the Middle East are changing. I think Pakistan has not been able to read the changing dynamics. And second, there's a personality clash between MBS and Imran Khan. Now, the problem started in 2015, if you recall, when Saudi Arabia had asked for Pakistani troops in Yemen, and Pakistan Parliament declared. That was a big shock. And the UAE Deputy Foreign Minister issued a very nasty statement, literally saying that, you are living on our whatever, and this is what you do to us. So the problem started since then. Then, Imran Khan has sort of, and not only Imran Khan, Pakistan itself views the situation in the Middle East and everywhere else through the prism of Kashmir. So they've asked the question, who is supporting us on Kashmir? So it's Turkey, it's Malaysia, it is Iran. So immediately they start. Saudis have adopted a more practical and a down-to-earth approach towards Kashmir. For them, doing trade, Kashmir is an issue. They're not denying that it is not an issue, but they're looking at other issues also. So this upset Imran Khan, who, if you remember in 2019 when he went to the UN, he said, I am the ambassador of Kashmir. And he thought with my oratoric skills and rhetoric, I'll be able to convince the international community. And jaise kehte hain na, kisi ne usko ghas nikla. He was very, very upset. Then he met up with Turkey and Malaysia and they said, we'll set up a parallel group, the English language station in Malaysia and things like that. MBS was very upset at that time. And when he and Imran Khan had come to New York in the Crown Prince's aircraft, on the way back, the aircraft had flown 2 hours. MBS called it back, saying technical fault. And Imran Khan had to take a commercial flight to get back to Pakistan. That was a very important signal which Imran Khan refused to accept. So it has been a personality clash. It's been not realizing that what is happening in the Middle East today. Middle East, the Arab domination of Islamic world is being challenged by Turkey, Malaysia and Iran. And Imran Khan, because he feels that they are supporting Kashmir, he wants to go along with them. Not realizing that the entire economic interests of Pakistan are linked to Saudi Arabia, UAE and the Gulf. 2 million Pakistani workers are working over there. They are sending about $10 billion in remittances, which is 50% of the remittances that Pakistan receives. UAE has already stopped visas. And you don't know what Saudi Arabia will do. Today, 50,000 Pakistani workers have been sent back. 50,000 have been laid off in UAE. And 100,000 people who had got visas in Pakistan can't go to the UAE. So economically, this will have a devastating impact. Then Saudi Arabia has asked for the repayment of loan of $3 billion. $2 billion have been paid by borrowing from China. They have stopped the $3.2 billion oil agreement that they had. So economic interests are all with Saudi Arabia and the Arabs. And yet, aap unko aankhein dikha rahe ho. And what can Iran and Turkey and Malaysia do for Pakistan or give Pakistan? So a lot of people in Pakistan don't understand what is Pakistan doing. They not understand the dynamics of the Middle East and viewing everything from the Kashmir prism, their foreign policy has gone for a toss in the Middle East. What did Shah Mahmood Qureshi do? To overcome the failure of the visit, he held a press conference to say that we've got information that false flag, surgical strike, India is going to do surgical strike. This is not how mature nations play out their foreign policy. It's really a very childish, and everybody can see through it. Who is he trying to fool? Everybody can see through it. Yes, certainly. So these are his cronies. They don't have the experience. You see, a politician, the big advantage the politician has, he has a finger on the pulse of the people. What is it that the people want? Is this important or is that important? For the unelected advisor, they may be intellectuals, they may be highly educated, but they don't have the finger on the pulse of the people. They don't know what politics is all about. So they're functioning in a vacuum. And then there is also the fear that Saudi Arabia has that a lot of them are Shias. And they're trying to push the Iranian agenda rather than what used to be earlier with Pakistan, pushing the Sunni agenda. So that's also the other problem. And now, ultimately, the Islamabad High Court had to step in. And 2 judgments the Islamabad High Court has given that the unelected advisors cannot make policy pronouncements, cannot speak on behalf of the government, and cannot be head of a government department. So, they have tried to clip the wings. So even like Moeed Yusuf, when he gave this interview to an Indian platform, he said, I'm giving you policy, I'm telling you. He has no business to say that. That was all invalid and I would say even illegal, what he said. So it is the Supreme Court which is now, I mean the High Court, Islamabad High Court, which has rectified the matters to say that unelected advisors are just to give advice, not in charge of government departments or not in charge of policy. True, absolutely. You see, in the case of Justice Faiz Isha, he is, I think, going to become Chief Justice in the next changeover. 2022. So, given his judgment in the Faizabad Dharna, you know, it was his judgment which he totally castigated the army and the ISI for having, almost saying that you have organized it, because army hasn't forgiven him for that. They want to make sure that he doesn't become Chief Justice, because if he were to become Chief Justice, one or two more judgments like this will totally demolish whatever power army has accumulated for itself. So they are determined to ensure that he does not become the Chief Justice. So it's an absolutely absurd case about the assets of his wife and his family made out a case for that, in which the full Supreme Judicial Council threw out. This is total nonsense. So similarly, I think his wife posed the question, what about the property and other things of Imran Khan's children and Imran Khan's wife? Why have that not been taken up? So the army is trying all kinds of things to ensure that Qazi Faiz Isa does not become Chief Justice. Because if he becomes Chief Justice, then probably they'll have to do a musharraf on him, force him to step down. So he has some, sort of moves for that. And right, dictatorship, because look at the media. This owner of the Jio, 6 months without being charged, he was behind bars. So many journalists have been beaten up, Matiullah Jahan, Najam Sethi, Taha Siddiqui, you name them one after the other, they've all been browbeaten and pressurized to stop doing. Because Imran Khan is incompetent, he can't tackle the problem. So he thinks the best way is to stop reporting about the problem, so the problem will go away on its own. If nobody is writing about it, the problem will not be there. I mean, so limited mind, limited intelligence, so this is what he feels. And the army says, balle balle, this is the best thing to do. Two reasons. One, they're workers, which is the critical. 50% of the remittances are coming from Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. Pakistan will be absolutely devastated if there is even a small cut in these remittances. Second, the loans which Saudi Arabia is generously giving out to them in the past, the oil supplies agreement of deferred payment. It would be fine if some other country would bail out Pakistan. China, we know, will not bail out Pakistan for, China will extract more than their pound of flesh for this. So it is suicidal. It is suicidal for Pakistan. That's why a lot of Pakistanis don't understand. So what is it that Imran Khan is trying to do? By getting one statement on Kashmir, can you compensate for all that they are losing? This is the first time in Pakistan's history of 72 years that a Punjabi political leader, 3 times Prime Minister, whose all his support is in Punjab, is challenging the predominantly Punjabi army and a Punjabi army chief. So, ek to uske pe he has the kind of guts, and he has, because he knows the people are with him. After all, the rallies which were held in Gujranwala and Multan are core headquarters. And there was a huge gathering in these two places where people came out and supported, and when he was making those statements, huge amount of cheering. So he has a ground support of the Punjabis. Second, you are right. He is getting a backing from some quarter, which I don't know, which will come out in the future, but right now you can speculate. Yes, it can be the Saudis who are unhappy with Imran Khan. It can be the United States. It can be a section of the army itself who are backing and who don't like the extension given to Bajwa because he's superseded. So many people will retire. Not superseded, but so many generals will retire. So he could be getting a backing from them. So there is a backing and the fact that he's Punjabi. Now, if there was a Sindhi person, he wouldn't have been able to last out this long. But the stamina that a Punjabi 3-time chief minister has, and look at his daughter Mariam. She is no less. She is extremely articulate, very hard-hitting. And she's calling him Tabedar Khan, Katora Khan. She's calling all kinds of, and seeing him, Bilawal is also, making. And then you have Mahmood Khan Achakzai, and you have Akhtar Bengal. So they've all sort of joined in, taking their basic strength from Nawaz Sharif, and let's not forget the Maulana. Maulana's cadres, they've tried to split the JUI there's been a split in the JUI, but still the Maulana is Maulana. He's a seasoned, tough politician. So there is some backing is definitely there. You see, because, leave aside Balochistan. The JUI cadre in KPK and Balochistan are what gives Maulana strength. See, he doesn't have political strength, not strength in the assemblies, but the madrasa students and his own cadres are people who will not back down till he gives a call to back down. They will provide the fodder to the PDM march. So before the PDM march takes place in January or beginning of February, they want to make sure that if they can wean away this Maulana Shairani and other people like that, if they can break them away, then some of the cadre strength of the Maulana will get affected. They probably feel that Balochistan is easier place to tackle than, let's say, KPK or in Sindh and Punjab. You see, again, with the Chinese, they can sign MOUs for any amount, 20 billion, 100 billion. But till it actually, even in Pakistan, though the CPEC is $62 billion, what has come in so far? 19 billion. Started in 2015. Hai na? So similarly with Iran, I will not really believe it unless the money is actually invested. Point number one. Point number two, the US sanctions against Iran were because of a personal assessment that President Trump had made. Hai na? Now, another 20 days will be a new administration, which may have a different perspective, a different way. I think Iran is also waiting. It has signaled by getting close to China, signaled to the US that, look, we have another way of doing it. But let's see what the new US administration does if it comes back to the deal, and then what happens. The issue would be that how would Saudi Arabia and Iran react, Saudi Arabia and Israel react to any softening of the US stand towards Iran. That will play a big difference on how the Iranian-Chinese relationship Saudi Arabia would like continuous pressure on Iran. Israel would like continuous pressure on Iran. In fact, opposition to Iran has brought Israel and Saudi Arabia together. So if the President Biden eases that pressure, that will create another complication. So I think this is an evolving situation. We'll have to wait and see how this actually develops. And as far as India's relations with Iran are concerned, I think they are on a different trajectory as far as Chabahar port is concerned, or buying oil, which is now, of course, gone into a spin. But it's on a different trajectory. And I think India will be able to maneuver their own relationship with Saudi Arabia and Iran, as we have been balancing all this while. No. So this is going to be a big problem. You see, because the Chinese have been pushing for this fence around Gwadar, where their investments are, where their people are going to be residing. And basically pushing all the Baloch out, and the Baloch to enter that area for shops or marketing or whatever, they will get a pass. Now, can you imagine in your own country, foreigners are living in a place and you to enter have to get a pass. So this is a similar kind of pass which was used by South Africa to control the native South Africans. So this is a form of apartheid, and the Baloch are extremely upset about it because they feel that this is the first step in pushing them out of Gwadar, changing the demography of Gwadar by having only Chinese over there, and ultimately bifurcating Gwadar away from Balochistan. Together with this, there is also this plan. First time Imran Khan has mentioned South Balochistan. And they've developed a package only for the 9 districts of South Balochistan. Now people are wondering, the entire Balochistan is poor and backward. So why only South Balochistan? Again, this is a conspiracy to ultimately partition Balochistan into South and North so as to protect Chinese investments. The entire coastline is in South Balochistan. So they will want to bifurcate this coastline. As it is, they have issued this ordinance, this island development ordinance, and taken away 2 islands of Sindh off the Karachi coast. So the Baloch feel that they're going to lose their coastline, they're going to lose Gwadar, and their province is going to go. So there's a lot of resentment in Balochistan among the Baloch that how are you allowing this to be done? All this is to signal to the Chinese that, look, we are looking after your interests, we are looking after your investments. I don't think so the Chinese are going to be convinced, because that is the reason why, for the first time, the Chinese have asked for bank guarantees for the 6 billion loan for the mainline one project. This has never happened before. Pakistan doesn't have any money. In fact, you will recall the famous Rekodik case, where Pakistan lost the arbitration to this TCC company, and they've been fined $6 billion. To stay that $6 billion, Pakistan had to provide 25% bank guarantee. They couldn't find any bank which will accept a bank guarantee from Pakistan. They couldn't find a 1.2 or $1.5 billion bank guarantee. So they've lost the case. So what has the company done? They have filed a case in the British Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands High Court has awarded Pakistan's properties overseas to this company to recover the cost. So obviously the Chinese are watching this, that if you are going to be paying a fine of $6 billion to this company and you are asking $6 billion from us, so they want bank guarantees. So China has also now finally realized that, look, Pakistan is a sinking ship. It's a black hole. How much money can you keep throwing there without getting anything in return? And China is not looking for financial returns on their investments. They are looking for land. Other places, strategic places, they want to take over for failure for Pakistan to repay. Like in the case of Hambantota in Sri Lanka. They've taken it over for a long-term lease. China is looking for the same thing over here. This will backfire. This will seriously backfire. You see, because the Baloch are not a religious people, they're a secular people. They're conservative, but they're a secular people. So you can't divide them on the basis of religion. The Musharraf has tried a lot by madrasas, by sending in this Hafiz Saeed and company to set up madrasas. It hasn't worked. Now they're trying to create this geographical division. North Balochistan, South. This is also not going to work. Former Chief Minister of PMLN has said there is no North, South, East, West Balochistan. There's only one Balochistan and it will remain one Balochistan. So this will backfire and people will rise up even more in protest if they actually pursue, go ahead and continue with this. So I think it's really going to backfire. See, what the Pakistan army thought when they brought Imran Khan, selected him, that we will take care of foreign policy, security issues, he will take care of the economy and running the civil government. He has miserably failed because he has no imagination. He has no intellect. He can't understand basic issues. And the advisors that he's got around them are not politicians, as I mentioned earlier. They don't have the finger on the pulse. For them, inflation is nothing because they're getting everything free. So they can't understand how to tackle the problem of, you mentioned very rightly, wheat. What the price of wheat was 6 months ago and what it is today. Price of sugar, gas shortages. Gas shortages should have been anticipated earlier and gas brought when the price was low. They haven't done that. They brought prices. Somebody's made a lot of money. They bought gas at a time when it was very, very expensive. So every way it has been very badly managed. And the army is also beginning to wonder that we invested in this man can't even run the economy. So ultimately it affects the army also because though the soldiers stay in a cantonment, when they go home to their leave, their families are suffering. Inflation is so high, gas prices are so high, electricity bills are so high, food has become so high. So what do they do? What has happened? So a lot of people ask that how come there then isn't a massive protests? So the PDM has sort of leveraged this resentment. That's why a lot of the support that the PDM is getting in the Jalsas is not because of love for PDM alone. It is because the people are frustrated and alienated that which way is Pakistan headed? When are we going to get cheaper wheat, cheaper sugar? When will gas come? When will the prices of vegetables come down? So they are expressing their frustration and anger through support to the PDM. And Pakistan really needs to pull up its socks. Because it is, ultimately you're heading into a crisis as you head more and more into winter and you don't have food and you don't have... And the biggest problem of all which is coming is water. The shortage of water that Pakistan is staring in the face, as I keep writing about and I'm very passionate about. There's a massive water shortage coming up just a few years down the road. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. Where are they going to get water? China is not going to come and airdrop water on them. So... it's a pretty grim future. So somebody has to take charge. Whether it's the army, Imran Khan can't do it. I don't see anybody in his government who has the competence to do it. So ultimately, something will have to break somewhere. Whether it is water tank, whether it is ghee, whether it is food, whether corner plots, of course, they are the experts. And so there, it's the army all over. So the army is losing credibility now because they are so closely associated with Imran Khan. Imran Khan keeps saying we are on the same page. The people say if you're on the same page, then if Imran Khan is bad, you are worse. After all, this is what Nawaz Sharif has focused on. That don't blame Imran Khan so much as the selectors. After all, the selectors brought him. Unki kya responsibility hai? They are the ones responsible.